guys, and welcome back to the channel. It's 2025 and it's time to start the wings for the let off Lunak build wing. Part 12, and yeah, there's quite a lot to think about on the wing. Both wings are drawn on the plan. This wing has a lot more detail on it. The wing I've got on the building board is pretty much the same wing, of course, except the reverse image. I'll just double check that. Yeah, it is. And so on this plan, it's not on that plan, is the main spar, which goes between the two. It's the main spar web that goes between the two main spars, which are 10x3 spruce. So I'm going to have to pull that down to cut it. Otherwise, have a look down here. Will that help matters or hinder? That doesn't look too bad. I've cleared the bench, put an extension onto the building board and just laid a bit of plastic over it. I've got all the ribs to cut out still. I've drawn up the first few on the computer, so I might laser those. The rest, to be honest, it might be quicker. There's not that many just to whip them out of wood. But basically, there's ribs, riblets, and some rear spar, which goes from here to there, and that's 4mm balsa, 4mm hard. Actually, it doesn't, goes to there. That's the one. This is a rear, just a rear spar, and this is the rear spar outer, which goes from here up to there, and it overlaps on that join there. There's also a piece of 1/8 wood goes at the front of the ribs, and then a sort of an inner false leading edge, then a leading edge on the outside. The wing only has an aileron, big aileron, and the inner one is actually a Fowler flap, but it's not needed on this model. And there's air brakes here. I'm not sure what I'm going to do for air brakes yet. I've got an idea. I'm not going to be using any of the bell cranks that they've got shown, because I'm going to put the servos in the wings. Got these little KSD servos, very slim, very powerful, so I'll pop those in the wings. One there for the air brake, one there for the aileron, and one down here to work the air brake. So I don't need any of the bell cranks or push rods or anything like that, which is good. The whole wing is supposed to be covered in 0.4mm ply. That's not going to happen. I'm going to cover it in, I'm toying with the idea of just covering the leading edge in balsa and having an open structure with cap strips, because I like that. This is open structure anyway, so with cap strips, ailerons, so I'll probably continue that theme. The inner piece I'm going to sheet for strength, and what else? Oh yeah, the wingtip has about 1/4 inch of washout, and to obtain a washout, the aileron is built twisted, so the tip of the aileron has the washout, and that's the way I'm going to do it. The main spars, like I said, are spruce. Interestingly, and I've never thought about it before, I always thought, yeah, just join them on a splice cut like that, but of course to get really the strength up, they've got to be spliced that way, so I'll have to sand an angle on both sides so as they join that way, nice and flat, and you've got a much bigger surface area, which makes sense. So I've got a few parts to cut out. Oh, there's one other thing which has been a little bit of a challenge for me. and that's the joiner. The original joiner shown, let's sit down a minute. The original joiner shown is 10 by 3 mil over this length here, here to here. Let's bend you down a bit. The details are on the other plan. But I couldn't get 10 mil. It's not, doesn't seem to be made anymore. So the nearest I got was 16 by actually 2.5. It says 16 by 3 on here. Aeronaut wing joiner is 16 by 3. It's not 16 by 3, it's 16 by 2.5. And it's built into the wing at an angle to allow for the dihedral. But being deeper, it sticks out the bottom of the wing, so I'm going to have to cut again on the RC groups. We've been talking about this, and I think I'm going to cut an angle. Once it's cut to length, I'm going to cut an angle so it doesn't stick out the bottom of the wing. I'm going to leave this bit attached on the outer edge, bend it up to touch, and then silver solder, and then the steel joiner inside will have an angle cut corresponding to the angle in the joiner. So that's the way I'm going to do it. Another thing that I haven't mentioned, and that is there's a piece of 4mm brass tube to go in here for the rear wing support through the fuselage. 4mm diameter brass. Yeah, am I going to use that to retain the wing? Probably will. One of the club members had a neat solution. Instead of putting rubber bands between the hooks, he used springs, about 4-inch long springs. So he just hooked the spring on, which was a lot neater and will never deteriorate like a rubber band over time. So yes, I'll probably put the hooks in. So there we are, that's all the bits. So all I've got to do now is to cut out some ribs, join the main spars, cut the rear spar. Oh, it's 4mm hard bolts, so I've got a nice sheet of really hard 4mm. So I've got a few components to cut out. When all cut out, guys, and I'm ready to start sort of putting it down and sticking it up and all that sort of stuff, I'll come back to you. See you probably not so soon. Probably be about a week. Cheers, guys. What the devil's that, Cliff? Okay, it's the main spars, and they've been glued together. Let's pop these away. I've glued them together and splice them together. Held them all flat and upright with my 321 blocks. And they're probably stuck to the paper because the epoxy has seeped out, but that's okay. I've done the maximum overlap that the length of the spars would allow, which is just about what they've got showing on the plan, just about. Yeah, I'll have to rip this. I knew it was oozing out when I put them together, but I didn't want to go light on the epoxy. It's quite an important joint, let's face it. Okay, so that's the main spars made. That's good, and they are just long enough. That's nice. While you've been away, the only other thing I've cut out is the wing ribs. R1, 2, 3 are all ply. R4 is the first rib out of balsa. But I thought, do you know what? I'm going to cut it out of ply. It was all on the same cutting sheet. Didn't seem any point not to, so I've cut it out of ply. I made 2 sets as well. The other thing I did was R8, which is this one here. I've cut out of ply. I've got out my leaking epoxy, I don't know, it just seems to leak out. Once I've used it, it sort of runs back out and comes out this crack around. There's a drip of it now. That I've still got half left, so it's not very nice. I've emailed Deluxe Products asking them if they can send me another top. Let's just pop this away somewhere. Pop it up there. So there you have it. So I'm just going to go away again, cut out a few more ribs. I've still got to cut out the rear spar. That's in 2 parts out of 4mm wood, which is this wood here. This goes here like that, you see. That goes on there. There's a 4mm web that goes between the 2 main spars that form a sort of an I-beam. The holes in here are for the brass tubes, front and back. I've also cut a hole in there, I think that's about right, for the MPX, is it MPX fitting? And that will go there, and the fitting will go through. But I haven't got the fittings yet, so I don't know if this is going to be usable or not. 3D printed, they're just available online, just download them, and that's the opposite number. Or whether that goes, because that actually fits in there, so that could be the fact that that is glued in there like that, and I need to print another one out to go on the other side, and then the wires will go into there, and that will be in the wing fixed against that rib, in fact, like that, just like that, which is rather neat. That. I am thinking I've got quite a lot of 3/32 balsa. I'm thinking of cutting the ribs out of 3/32 instead of 16th, and then I thought I might put cap strips on and leave this part of the wing open. Okay, I thought I'd show you this, guys. I'm cutting out the rear spar that goes through the ribs at this position. Quite a big piece. It's in 2 bits, but I'm going to cut it out of this sheet of wood. So I've marked up the 15mm this side and 19 this side, wherever it ends. That's the point. Where does it end? There. And I pinned the balsa wood down, and I also pinned the straight edge down. So really, nothing can move. The only other thing to think about is keeping the blade upright and not cutting through the plan. Don't try and cut through all in one go. Keep the blade upright as best you can, and just cut through, keeping the blade pressed against the straight edge, taking your time. So I think I'll stop there, because I think one more stroke would probably have it through the wood. Through the wood and into the plan. But I'm going to chance my arm. I'm not pressing hardly at all now, because I want to use this straight edge as the basis for the next piece of wood. Okay, let's see what we've got. Paste with a lovely long heavy straight edge. By putting the pins down and pinning the rule down, it's great because it can't move, and things do move, especially when you're applying pressure to them and everything. For the cross grain, I'll use the saw. And we'll just carry on down now. Medium hard balsa. Oh, there we go. Okay, so there's one of my spars. That looks pretty straight. If I put that up against the factory edge has got a divot in it there, so that's not bad at all. What I'm doing, I'm cutting out the parts for the other wing as well, so I'm going to do that. Then I'm going to cut out this part exactly the same way, and I'll notch it, but I've got to decide. Obviously the first 4 ribs are the 1/16 ply ones. In fact, I think they might be 2mm, but whatever. I have to slot these for these ribs and then make my mind up what I'm doing for the rest of the slots. Okay, I'm going to produce the ribs from R8 all the way down to R18 using the sandwich method. So I've cut out 2 ribs in plywood. So I'm going to cut the ribs out of, instead of 1/16, I've got lots of 3/32, very nice wood, and it's not a popular thickness to use in models really, so I'm going to use it up on the ribs. We'll use some of it on the ribs. So the ribs are actually in 3 parts because there's a I-beam or an upright beam that I haven't cut yet that goes there on the main spar and then the other main spar on the top. But I'm going to cut them all out as one and then cut them up as I need them. I think would be easiest. So I've got to cut blanks. The bigger the stack, the less angle is going to be on the leading edge of the ribs. The front is slightly longer than I need to account for that, and I can sand it a little bit less of an angle, but there is an angle on them anyway, just not as much as that. And so to decrease the angle, I'm going to cut both sets of ribs. So I need 20 blanks. This isn't ideal. So I'm going to cut out all the blanks, guys, and I'll be back in a minute. I've positioned the ribs, drawn a line with the ruler, imaginary line, and all the pieces are now inside the ends. I've pushed pins deep into each side, and now I'm going to start carving. So all I've got to do is to carve all the balsa away down to that point and saw it and cut it. And where do you start? I mean, I could start, I think my gut feeling is just to shave away this high spot here, so that's what I'm going to do. So let's just turn that a minute. And this is one of the best parts of balsa. It's just shaving and shaping it. I know I'm going to end up with a huge pile of shavings, which I'll have to clear regularly, I think. So what I did, I just drilled some little holes in the plywood ribs and just pushed pins in. These pins are quite long, so they overlap each side. Obviously it's at its most delicate in the middle. So, you know, if I did that, it'd probably open up. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to take a little bit more off the back here. I'm going to use the coarse one. Just on this corner. That's better. It's better. So the main wing spar, which goes down between the top and bottom spars, the spruce spars, that bit there I'm looking at, is this bit here, spliced for the length because it's pretty long, and that is this piece here. So I've glued it up overnight with the splice, you can see there, and I can now, I've got all the components now, including the wing ribs and the trailing edge, to start gluing it up. Okay, see you soon.